Redditors that had a classmate who went on to commit a heinous crime. What happened? 1. I unfortunately have 2. Went to school with a guy who wasn't very nice and also got bullied some. After high school I would run into him and catch up, and his life was not good. Got into drug problems, job problems, poverty. Then I just didn't run into him anymore. About 10 years ago I was scrolling around Facebook and saw a picture of him posted by someone I didn't know. Apparently, a family was trying to hunt him down, vigilante style, because according to the post, he had raped their adult daughter. About 2 days later and his mugshot is plastered online and in the news. Police arrested him. He was found guilty of drugging and raping a former female friend. He did prison time. He is out now but a registered offender. The other guy recently was in national news for murdering his ex-wife. He shot her after breaking into her house. His family has money and problems. I'm sure he thought he could lawyer his way out of the trial. He is currently in prison and will be for a long time. 2. My family moved halfway down the country when I was 12 and my mom quickly made friends with a local woman with a daughter the same age who went to the same school as me. In rural NZ, farming kids that are a long way from the school, we were over 40 kilometers, the bus had one local pickup point for each small town on the road and the parents would generally take turns running the local kids to and from the pickup point, so I was basically forced to form some sort of acquaintanceship with this girl. She always scared me a bit, there was something off about her. I always felt like a mouse and she was a cat around her. I can't really explain anything she did around me that contributed to that feeling, but I never formed a friendship with her. Her mom would spend a lot of time talking to my mom about what a hard time she had with her and how she was afraid of her own daughter. She had multiple run-ins with the law from mid-teens onwards, including things like running over a cop who had pulled her over, etc. She eventually murdered her partner, took his body far out of town and buried him in a shallow grave in the bush and then parked his car somewhere to look like he had abandoned it. It took the police months to get her for it. Can't say I was surprised that she did it. 3. He went to my elementary school for a bit before transferring to another school. He was super weird. During lunch he would bite 2 holes out of the bologna from his sandwich, place it on his face and tell everyone that he was Bologna Man. In sophomore year, he joined the local high school but never told anyone why he didn't complete freshman year with the rest of us. He was the it guy. Girls wanted to be with him. Guys wanted to be him. Turns out, he was still weird even in high school. One Halloween, he came to school dressed as Hitler. About a decade after high school, he was arrested in a murder case of a local waitress. Apparently, they were dating and he got jealous one night and killed her. He was found guilty and put in jail a few years ago. Turns out, he missed freshman year because he beat his younger brother and tied him to a tree in the front yard. He was sent to military school that year. Needless to say, there were definitely signs of what was to come. 4. There was this kid a few grades lower than me and he always gave everybody the creepiest vibe, but there was no real reason. He wasn't popular around town either for just obnoxious behavior. Like dragging a stick along someone's chain link fence if their dog was out while he was walking home from school, asking weird and somewhat personal questions, etc. His family wasn't much better. The dad was a retired vet that always hung out around the convenience store after school was out so he could watch all the kids flock there to hang out. We lived in a very small rural town. I graduated with a class of 28 people. The dad would take up volunteering to walk kids across the main street, which was also a busy state highway, when they needed to cross for school, but always had creepy comments. I received many of them, most of them on my budding appearance. Gross. Anyway, they also have their mom who is a silent enabler type, but can be heard shrieking at her children from time to time in the church parking lot. And then there's the daughter. She always had a vacant expression, like out to lunch so to speak. Quiet, shy, timid. Didn't speak unless spoken to, and even then was soft-spoken and short-sentenced. No friends really to speak of. Sorry for the long background, but it's necessary for context. Years later when her older brother is out of school, the daughter ends up going to a classmate's big class-wide birthday party and finally has the strength to tell another girl her biggest secret. 2 days later there were multiple arrests made at their house. The creepy kid, his dad and the dad's brother had all been sexually abusing the daughter for years. No one in this family is adopted or step-family. I remember hearing about it in the town rumor mill and everyone instantly clicked why the kid felt so creepy when we didn't have any concrete reason to think so. They were all tried and found guilty and served time. I hope they still are. I don't want to look them up again. But before they got their sentencing, but after being convicted, the creepy kid, now aged 21, actually got sexually assaulted in the jail. His attacker called it justice for sister's name. Everyone was shocked by that whole disgusting group of degenerates, but no one was really surprised. Before the bust the dad would also try on multiple occasions to spill ice in front of the convenience store where I worked so he could then walk over it and slip and then come in and complain to my manager about getting hurt on the property. We had cameras outside and watched him do it multiple different times. My manager pulled it up and showed him once. Funny that he never decided to press charges after being so critically hurt. Never felt the need to call emergency services either. Save for the daughter, that whole family is heinous and should never be allowed to interact with human beings ever again. 5. I was homeschooled, so technically a classmate but also my sister. There's no real tactful way of saying it, but apparently during her babysitting she molested, raped at least one boy who was way too young to even know what sex was. Nearly a decade later she decided she had to tell our family, though she said it was because she was molested at age 5 by a 3-year-old girl. The kid was just entering college and his parents didn't want dredged up memories messing up such a pivotal point in life, so they said they wouldn't go to the cops if she never contacted him or their family again. My parents, who upon finding out I had watched porn as a kid threatened to kill me if I ever touched my sister, which had never crossed my mind, but was pretty traumatic to have a parent assume of you, were completely fine with her fucking a kid and supported her desire to volunteer for children's ministry at church and the children's water balloon fights she insisted on having at her birthdays. In her 30s. She claimed her Christian counselor told her she wasn't a pedo and was cured from that, though I ended up seeing another counselor at the practice due to them being cheap, and he said no licensed counselor ever would have said that had they known she actually fucked a kid. The really fucked up thing was she became obsessed with apologizing to the kid and believed his parents were evil for not letting her apologize, and did eventually piss his parents off enough to call the cops, but nothing came of it. 6. I went to high school with a kid who shotgunned his stepfather and mother to death and went to the mall afterwards. He went to prison. He suddenly disappeared in school and I had no idea what happened to him. Then years later I saw him on some talk show in a jail interview and then found out that way. BTW, he was a cool guy. I liked him. Was funny. Wasn't super popular but more average than anything. People liked him. He never picked on anyone and was really nice and funny. I absolutely cannot remember his name though because it was way back in like 1989 or near then. I once found an article on him, but that was like 15 years ago. If anyone wants to try to find it, some details that might help. He and a friend went to Bannister Mall afterwards in South Kansas City, Missouri. Bannister Mall was torn down many years ago. I think he lived in either Peculiar, Missouri or Raymore, Missouri. If anyone finds an article, let me know. 7. Good friend in HS. He was chill, but lazy and prone to taking shortcuts. He found steroids and crank a good combination to put on a lot of muscle and cut a lot of body fat really fast. He looked like a damn superhero for a bit. But he became a major asshole along the way. He burned bridges with pretty much everyone. Found out later his addiction cost him his job, his marriage, his kids, and the rage from all that loss was his sorry-ass excuse to commit essays against multiple women. He went to prison for over a decade. When he was released, he moved out of state. And committed the same offenses in that state. That state put him behind bars likely for the rest of his life. He won't even be eligible for parole until 72 years old. 8. I was best friends with a kid all through elementary school, spent one summer apart heading into middle school, and when I saw him again, he hated me for reasons I never understood. We had a very rocky relationship all the way up until junior year. I never saw him again. He had an older brother who was friends with my older sister. I saw his brother one afternoon and asked, "Whatever happened to blah blah blah?" That was the day I found out that he had broken into someone's home and emptied a gas can all over a living room, down their drains, all over their beds. Lit that shit on fire and died in it. It was pretty hard to wrap my mind around. No one we had gone to school with knew about it. Everyone had just assumed he dropped out.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.